Welcome to Voices Beyond the Spectrum. Real stories, brave voices, radiant perspectives. This is the podcast for parents and caregivers of autistic and neurodivergent children and teens. I'm your host, and each week we hold space for honest conversations, shared struggles, and hard-won victories from those who truly live it. You're not alone, your story matters, and it starts here. Welcome to Voices Beyond the Spectrum. I'm your host, Karla Chinen, and today I have a fellow autism mom that I met through the journey, Maria Torres, and she's here to tell her story as well as to provide tips on how to build a support system. So, welcome, Maria.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Oh, my pleasure. So tell us a little bit more about yourself, your baby.
Okay, so I'm Maria Torres. I have two boys. I have Ralphie, who's 11, and he's on the spectrum. And then I have Esteban, he's 5, and he's my typical kid. We've been on this journey since Ralphie was about 2.5 years old. And there's been ups, there's been downs, there's been a little bit of everything.
Good to know. So let's take you back to the day that you got his diagnosis. How was that for you emotionally?
The day that I got his diagnosis, I feel like it's very similar to other moms. I feel like we had the intuition to begin with. Getting or receiving that diagnosis was just confirmation to us. Especially to me, because I always sensed it since, the early age of maybe, he was under 1 for sure, but it really got solidified when he was 18 months and began to stim, because I started looking, right? We started doing our research and
Yes.
really digging in, and I was just like, he has everything, but it talked about stimming. I'm like, I don't really see that. But then slowly I was like, okay, he's doing that now. I brought it up to his pediatrician 3 times. The first 2 times I got shooed away. Like, you're just over worried mom. You're a first time mom. Like, don't worry about it. And I'm like, but I am worried about it. All his milestones were met almost at the cusp. Like they were met, but it's like, well, not technically late, but they're right at that borderline. So the 3rd time I went in, I was like, listen, I have true concerns here, and I want an evaluation. And sadly enough, he had a very narrow mindset of, or understanding, I should say, of what autism was, because I was met with, well, he looked at me when I walked in, like, autistic kids don't do that.
Wow.
And I was like, it's a spectrum, so there's going to be different different reactions, different levels of impact. I'm not saying he's severely impacted. I'm not saying he's mildly I don't know. That's why I want the evaluation, right? Anyway, I walked out that day with the evaluation referral, and walking in just like to the eval itself, it felt like we're here. We're going to move forward from here. Like, this is going to be the beginning. So although, yes, it was heavy because since you become pregnant, I'm sure as a mom you could relate, you're already picturing your kid, meeting certain goals, living a certain lifestyle. And so questioning that, it feels heavy in the sense like, what does the future hold for him? How is this going to impact, those lifelong milestones? But I knew, like, once we got the diagnosis, that it was just going to be our starting point, and it was going to open that space of, like, helping him grow and develop.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I know. I remember meeting you in one of those classes for speech, because our babies were not speaking, and I remember I didn't even have a diagnosis there at that time either.
I believe we had to go through that class first before you could even do the eval.
To see if we could get them to speak, which is, oh my God, it's something else to say the least.
Yeah.
So now that you're here, what would you tell, or what would you wish to have known then that you know now?
I might sound like a broken record, but any parent that I meet, especially newly diagnosed parents that are going through the journey, it's a starting point. your right now is not your forever. Nobody, not a professional, not another family that with, a kid on the spectrum can tell you or predict where your kid is going to go. It's a starting point, and, it's a journey where there's going to be 3 key things for your child. And it's going to be getting educated,
Amen,
being consistent, and practicing what you're learning. Because by empowering yourself, you're going to empower your kid. Your child, they're getting diagnosed so young now. That is like early intervention is really a key for success. And you really pouring yourself into that, you're not going to go wrong. I can't tell you that your kid's going to be verbal. I can't tell you that your kid's going to be high functioning or not. That's not the goal. Mm-hmm. The goal is to equip your child, to empower your child, and to always hold them at a higher standard so that they could keep growing. And I wish that I had someone to kind of say that to me then, because I just felt like, well, what does this mean? Mm-hmm. Okay, now I have the diagnosis. What does this mean? Where do we go from here? There's no roadmap. No one's holding your hand through this. You're kind of getting that diagnosis. Here you go. There's ABA services if you want to try those out, and reach out to these companies. And that's it.
Yes.
See you later.
See you later. Yeah, pretty much. How did your family react when you gave them that diagnosis and your significant other?
There was a lot of conversations prior to the diagnosis. Mm-hmm. I feel it was similar to the pediatrician. I feel like everybody was like, he's normal. What? I don't see what you see. Like, he's typically developing. Like, just give him some more time. He's a boy. The boys are more lazy. So I always had the sense of like, do I have Munchausen? Like, am I seeing things that aren't truly there? Like, is something wrong with me? Am I the problem? However, I would like to say that from my side of the family, my parents and my siblings, they were my greatest support. They're like, if you really think there's something there, keep pushing for it. Mm-hmm. And they were my rock, to be honest. They were super supportive and accepting of my son. With the partner that I had at that time, it wasn't received as easily. I think we all process things differently. Mm-hmm. And I'm more of the problem solver. Like, let's get to work.
I think that's women.
And, I can't speak for him, but from my perspective, living it with him, I just felt that it wasn't received as easily, and there was more of an emotional burden on his end. Mm-hmm. And I'll just leave it at that because I can't speak for him. But, of course. There's other family members that were just kind of, they were all very inquisitive about what did it mean? And where's the future going to lead? And I was like, I can't answer that. We'll see. Mm-hmm. I'm like, but I'm not going to set limits for my kid. He's going to show me the limits. And we're going to keep chugging along.
And I got to be honest with you, the reason why I chose you specifically for this subject is because I remember I think we got probably our kiddos diagnosis around the same mm-hmm. time. But I remember you even threw this like autism party or like this gathering with your family. And I was like, a part of me was like, my God, I wish, my mom, she's very supportive, mm-hmm. and she actually saw some signs with me with Adrian. Okay. And, but that was as far as it went. Mm-hmm. I felt like you said, you feel like you're fighting like this, everyone's stereotypical idea of what autistic people look like, mm-hmm. In their head. They have Rain Man in their head, Mm-hmm. So with that being said, I would see your social media and I'm like, oh my God, she's throwing a whole party. That's awesome. Like, she's That's really so trying to build that community for herself. That's, and I, for me, I'm more introvert, and like, it was still, I don't have that big of a family mm-hmm. here. So it took a while for me to, not accept it, because I accepted it right away, but for me to put it out there and for me to like gather the community to support me. Mm-hmm. And I feel like you did that very well, and that's why I brought you here to kind of, give your tips to families or moms and how to kind of go over that little hump of...
Honestly, I'm going to say two things. It was my faith. I pray about everything. And, as soon as I got that diagnosis, I went into my car, and I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I cried. I cried because I felt like, who am I to lead this child? Like, I'm not equipped. I don't know anything about... I didn't know not one single individual on the spectrum. I didn't know what autism was. I had no experience with special needs at all. And I just felt like, Lord, why are you putting this on me? Like, I don't know what to do with this. But I know you're faithful, and I know you're giving this to me with a purpose. Guide me. But also, I felt like my family is so supportive, and my mom, especially, she gives awesome advice. And she's always been like, embrace what life throws at you. Embrace it, because what's the alternative? That you want to be sad about it? You want to be down about it all the time? No. And in my head, I just started saying, we're going to embrace this to the point where, like, it's going to be so normalized in our household that he's never going to see this as an impediment or as a burden to himself. We're going to empower him. This is going to be something that's going to be used for a greater good. He's going to advocate for himself. He's going to be proud of who he is. And all his personality, little quirky traits that he has, is like, it's going to be a positive experience. I don't want this to be carried in at any level of negativity at all. Like, it just...
oh my God. Yeah, that almost... it makes another mom tear up, because I have seen the other side with other moms, where they feel like they're just so confined to their own world. Yeah. And I'm not gonna lie, sometimes with Adrian, I'm like, I'll pick that battle to not take today, And
and I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying like, oh, this is super easy and everybody, no. There's hard times, but with those hard times, you learn. Yeah. And sometimes we do have to pick our battles, We have to choose we have to pick and choose what battles you want to fight today. You sure do you want to go out in the community right now? Maybe not, but it's okay. We'll try again tomorrow. It doesn't have to be done at the same time. Day by day, little by little, consistency. Just keep going little by little.
I love it. And it's very true about the whole consistency aspect. I remember when, having ABA companies come to your house and do all these therapies. And if one person's not on top of it to maintain everyone else consistent on what's going to be the positive reinforcer of the day, then he's going to get something that he shouldn't have gone then. And, so I love the fact that you do speak on the consistency aspect, because that's not something that a lot of parents push. And I think it's also great when you add that consistency to the community as well as to the school districts, and provide your input through the IEPs and letting them know the consistency of or your expectations. Yes. And not allowing the school districts or the community to put those expectations on your son or those limitations at that, and I've seen, how much Ralphie has progressed, and, he's amazing. His mind works. Like, my husband's fascinated how he's fascinated with movies, because my husband loves directors too.
Oh my gosh, no way. So they have something to talk about.
Yeah, he loves that stuff. So he's like, this director? I'm like, oh my God, you would love Ralphie. He's like,
He'll tell you all about it.
I'm like, Alfred Hitchcock and God knows, So it's it's amazing. During the process, what were incidents where you might have been like discouraged, that you might have had to need a reset, or where you would have felt like really like almost alone in the process, but kind of like reset yourself out of it?
Oh man. Honestly, it's always taken place in the setting of like services, related with services, whether it was in home or at a district level. It was finding those people who truly wanted to join my family, not add us on as a case, join like our family, join the same vision that we had for Ralphie. For a long time, maybe the first year and a half with ABA, I was very adamant on advocating for Ralphie to have a very naturalistic based approach. I didn't want this rigid clinical setting type of therapy for him. You know, being on the spectrum, he's rigid enough. Like, we had enough of that. We needed to break those habits, let him be more flexible, learn how to play. Like, you know, those skills transfer over to so many other different things. Like, they're little babies. That's how they learn, through play. And for a while, I was just really discouraged because I kept getting met with very clinical based approaches, and to the point where I reached out to the director of our ABA company. I was like, you know what? I don't think this is for us. Thank you for trying to help, but we're going to move forward. I don't know what we're doing. I don't have a plan, but we're going to move forward and like find something else. And shortly after that, she emailed me. She's like, give me one more shot. I have someone specific in mind for you. And I'm like, do I really want to give this a go again? But it just really shows that when you advocate for your child, and not just advocate for like, I want this, and that. I came in and I was like, I want this because these things are happening, and maybe even offer a solution, like, and I would like to see this result here. And I feel like they didn't see it as me coming in and complaining and just wanting, like, you know, this fairy tale, like, bippity boppity boop, your kid's fixed. No. It's like, it really, I feel like I was really heard there. And anyways, we ended up with a really good BCBA and a really good ABA therapist who now is a BCBA herself, because I feel that they joined our family, they understood our values and our needs, and they really made it a point to make a meaningful relationship with Ralphie, who Ralphie was, his little quirks, and accepting him for who he was. And he's into movies. There was movie theme everything. Okay, that was a reinforcer. And of course it worked, because he's like, I love this. We could talk about movies all day. So everything that was taught to him, it was played based on his personal interest, and we grew. The growth was huge at that point, because for so long we were stagnant. We weren't really going anywhere. And once we got a team that really like heard what I had to say about my son, it's like, listen, we're here. We might be at this mid-level right now. I'm like, but if we hold him to a higher standard, he's gonna reach it. And that's truly when I felt like I'm being finally heard. Like, I'm not alone in this. I don't think that nobody truly ever is. You're gonna have someone on your side, whether it's your spouse, whether it's your ABA company, you know, somebody's always there. So whatever relationship, meaningful relationship you have, lean on to that. And, you know, sometimes just venting helps, just to not make you feel alone.
And I think, like, that's, I think, because we do close ourselves off a lot, because, you know, not everyone understands, and we're not going to make them understand, so we're just going to do our own thing, you know? So with that being said, the fact that you learned how to advocate the proper way, and you're right, it's not about going there, and it's not a restaurant where you're just asking for things, and sometimes your kid doesn't even need it, but just because another mom asked for it, you feel like your son is entitled to. But at that point, they can't justify it, because you're not bringing valid reasons as to why you need these services. You know, I'm all for empowering parents, but also being realistic with why is it that you want this? You know, so I could go ahead and tell you how to explain it to the district as to why is it that you need this. You know, so it's a great point you touch on. I know, for example, social media, you know, that a lot of support groups, because we don't get to have a lot of girl nights where we have other females, especially. It's not till now that I'm, you know, building more of a community base with other mommies that have, you know, autistic kiddos, you know. So with that being said, with social media and doing your support group that way at times, how did you find that experience to help you, or maybe not help you?
through social media, I met a couple of moms. Some of them we have in common. And it was through meetups. I made it in, like, I was very intentional in attending every single meetup that I knew about. And I'm like, and I didn't go there to, like, chit chat. I'm like, I'm going here to network. I need to meet parents like, you know, like me that are going through it, or that are new maybe, because I was fresh, you know, when I started attending these. And I was like, I need to meet like-minded people. I need to meet my village here. And it wasn't just community groups. Like, our kiddos start preschool at a very young age in a special education setting. So I knew that your kid was on the spectrum too, you know? And I was like, I'm going to be your friend and your friend. Like, I had to, like you said earlier, I was like, that you're introverted. So am I. Like, I'm totally introverted. Like, nope, 1, 2, 3, let's go. We're going to say hi to these parents. We're going to make a connection because, and this is a big reason. I'm like, I wish all parents would do that. Because that's going to be your greatest resource. That's really going to be your village. You and I, like, we don't know every detail about our personal lives, but we were sure on the phone many times, like, hey, have you heard about this? Hey, what do you think about that kind of therapy? What do you think about this district? What do you think about, you know, we were sharing resources, sharing experiences.
Dentists, advocates.
Yes, everything. Yeah. And along the way, I've made friends who have older children, and they've gone before me. So I'm like, so at this stage, what happened? You know, in the IEP, how does it change in middle school? How does it change here? How does it? And they have been, the parents that I've met have been my greatest resource and my greatest support system. And some of them have become my best friends because we're able to talk without judgment. We're able to talk without explanation, and they're just like, girl, I get it. It's fine. Like, we understand. I'm able to have them over my house. They're able to go, we're able to go to their house, and it's just like, they're jumping on the couch. It's okay. It's fine. Yes. They're running. Oh, you better lock the door because they're about to run. You know, like, we get it. And it's just a sense of, like, an exhale.
Exhale.
Yeah. It's just like, you get it. I get it. Like, I don't need to worry about it. Like, my kid might be acting crazy right now, but it's okay. Yes. Everybody here is accepting of it.
Yes. And you know, I do, you know, have to take, you know, responsibility for me. You know, I have met a lot of wonderful women throughout this journey. You're one of them, as well as the previous one, Charlene, you know, and honestly, without you ladies, I would have been lost in the process in a lot of things. I know you guided me to a great dentist for Adrian, you know, and an advocate that has fought for him, you know, tremendously, and taught me the things I know now, you know, and to a certain degree molded me as an advocate.
Oh yeah, we share that experience.
But with that being said, now, you know, it's inspiring to hear this, you know, because sometimes I've mentioned that it can be a little bit of a lonely place, you know, because it's very hard. The previous friends you used to have, they don't understand what you go through. And sometimes you just have to let those friendships go their separate ways. They're still loved.
Purpose, right? Yeah. They serve their purpose, and we move forward with what's serving us now. And I feel within our special needs parent community, like, we all have that common ground where it's like, not everybody's going to accept it. Not everybody's okay with some of the behaviors that our kids display or whatnot. You know, there's a sad, how do we word this? Unfortunately, some people just think like we need to discipline our kids to get the autistic out of them.
Oh yeah,
and
I've
it's
had
just
a few
well, it's not
family
like that.
members.
Yeah.
But
they serve their purpose, and if they don't want to come along with the journey, then, you know, don't. And to be honest, some of the people who maybe jump ship at the beginning, now that they see Ralphie's progress, or that they see like, wait a minute, like, this isn't what I was expecting, they're coming back. Or they'll be like, I'm so sorry, like, at this time, you know, I might have said some negative things, but I understand better now. Because I did share a lot on my personal social media. I tried to take this opportunity to educate and take this opportunity to like embrace it, educate people, use it for good. And like, we're going to empower ourselves and others, because we're not going to sit here and be pity ourselves about the cards we were dealt.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. No, and I love it. I love the positivity behind it. I love the fact that it's not just about empowering even Ralphie. You empowered yourself to, like you mentioned, you said in that card, asking God why he had put you in this situation. But then you brush that off quickly. You realize he had a purpose behind that, and you realize he chose the right person to guide Ralphie in his path, you know? Hence why he's doing so well, you know? And it's inspiring, you know, from one mother to another to see that, you know, because you do hear a lot of the moping, you know, but it's good to also see the positives. And to, like I said, this organization is not just about empowering the parent. It's also about, honestly, educating the public. Yes. Because I feel a lot of the times our kiddos have to be censored left and right. But where are they? Like, why are our kiddos always in therapy, but yet the typical kiddos are not told how to be kind or how to empathize or how to be inclusive, you know? So, you know, I love it. I love the fact of you sharing that. And with that being said, to kind of close it off, if you could just give one advice to those parents, you know, that are starting, you mentioned, you know, community. Is there any other
a piece of advice? Geez, there's so much. But number one, I think, is this is not a sprint. This is a marathon. So take it slow, take it steady, be consistent, show up every day. You know, you showing up is good enough. You trying one thing is good enough. Like, don't try to take the whole cake and eat it at once. Little by little, it's all going to add up. These little steps are all going to add up, and it's going to be worth it. You know, sit in your grief, live it. Don't shove it, because that's not going to work. Live it, process it, and keep moving forward. You know, I give you a hug as a newly diagnosed parent, and I'm going to tell you, the best is yet to come. There's better days. Your kiddo is at its starting point. This isn't your forever.
That's very true, and I can second that one for sure. I know we both had to kind of like fight through specialists already giving our kiddos this is what's going to happen with your kid, and this is what that kid's not going to be able to do, and we had to show them otherwise, you know. And it's a constant fight with services, like you mentioned, but it's a beautiful journey, you know. And it's about seeing also the beautiful things that our children are and what they're capable of, and embracing that as well, and being that backbone for your kid, you know.
Absolutely.
But thank you for joining us, and
thank you for having me.
You know, you'll probably be on it again for some other wonderful subject. But thank you again, and thank you everyone that has watched this, and I appreciate the support. And I will be putting a link so you guys can sign up and continue following us, as well as joining the support groups that we do have online. You can go on the website, click on it, and join. It's every first, second, and third Tuesday of the month, depending on what group you want to join. It's a great place to meet and build this community, you know, because honestly, out of any support that I've gone with any therapies or anything, parents have moms like Maria, Charlene, and other mommies that I know have been my rock. So thank you very much, and hope to see you guys next Tuesday. Have a great one. Thank you for listening to this episode of Voices Beyond the Spectrum, hosted by Karla Chinen and featuring our special guest, Maria Torres. To hear more powerful stories and radiant perspectives from our neurodivergent community, visit www.empathyforautismcalifornia.com and follow us on Instagram, TikTok,
YouTube, and Apple Podcasts. Music was provided by Brad Klubid, piano by Brad and Sophia Chinen. Until next time, your story matters, your voice is powerful, and together we create change.